welcome back to Journaling Out Loud. Today we are talking childhood trauma, and our special guest is.
Hi, my name is Tiye. I'm a little nervous to be doing this, but a little bit about me. I am from Inglewood, California. I'm currently living in Dallas. Full-time nursing student working as a phlebotomist. I love to eat and drink a lot.
Eat with
everything. Yeah, I do have a cat. Y'all may hear her in the background a little bit because she's very needy. But let's get this thing going. Let's let's do it.
All right, so from previous episodes, you probably know how I work. I'm just gonna ask you a few questions. You answer them honestly and as straightforward as you want. And in return, you can ask me questions. You can kind of elaborate on what I say, blah blah blah. You know the deal. But before we get started, I would like to say that her and I actually met on Facebook, not in real life. We have not met in real life yet, and we've been really good friends. She's somebody I talk to when I just need like word of encouragement or advice, and vice versa. We just kind of always stay in touch. And when we first started talking, we talked literally every day.
You got on my nerves. Every time I turn around, you was. No, I'm just playing.
Lying. She's lying.
I'm just playing, y'all.
But yeah, that's a little bit of background on our friendship. I adore her to the end. All right, so first question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Since we're talking childhood trauma, how would you define your childhood? What was it like?
My childhood was very safe, very comforting. It was full of love, but with it being safe, I felt like I grew up in a box because of the trauma that I sustained. My mother was, she blamed herself for everything that happened. So she kind of just kept me in this box. It was go to school, go to practice. I was dancing with Tommy the Clown for a little bit, go practice with them, come home. So it wasn't really me going out, kicking it with friends and stuff. I couldn't leave off the block. Street lights came on, had to be in the house.
I think we're all familiar with that one.
yeah, that was my alarm. So, but okay, overall, I had a good childhood.
Okay, you said that your mom was a little bit protective and she blamed herself about what happened. So what are some of the trauma you experienced? Like what happened to you for her to be that way?
Okay.
And do I need to get tissues? Do I need to get tissues? Because
I don't think so. At 8, okay, so before I say this, we stayed very close to my school. We stayed 1 block south and then 1 block west of the school. So it was like 2 blocks. You hit a corner, boom, school's right there. I convinced my mother to let me go to school. I told her I was going to go. I was going to walk with my best friend at the time. His name was Anthony, but Anthony was already gone and I didn't want to go back, and tell her like, oh, I'm like, I could do this myself. School's right there. Long story short, I got kidnapped on the way to school. Kidnapped, I got raped, and he dropped me back off at school with some donuts and the change that he got from the donuts. My mom was already at the school with cops and everything because I never came. So after that, it kind of became like lockdown. We moved from Inglewood to Gardena, and she did everything in her power to make sure once I was out of school, I was home. Before I went to school, it was her taking me. Like I didn't catch buses. I didn't even start like walking to school until uh late junior high. And I walked with my manager's grandson and granddaughter. So I was always in a group. Um, but if it was alone, it wasn't happening. So she was very, very strict. Like if there was a house party across the street where she could look out her window and see, I still wasn't going. I still wasn't going. She was, she was protective, very protective. And like I said, she blamed herself for it because she allowed me to go, by myself. To this day, I think we talked about it, I want to say like maybe 2 weeks ago. She still battles with, her, what she considers fault in the situation. Uh,
Gotcha.
yeah, so
So, about the individual who kidnapped you, did you know him? Like,
mm-mm. um they had actually put out a poster about him that I took home to my mom about a week prior. Um it didn't show his face, but it gave a description of the van. But when you have kids and you tell them don't talk to strangers and stuff, kids get it until it's time for them to get it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew exactly what this man's van looked like. And I seen it. I walked across the street and I seen it on the opposite side of the street. When I crossed over to that second block, he had moved to that block. But it still hadn't registered to me, at 8 years old, like, oh, this is the van that was on the flyer. You know what I mean? And then, he starts talking to me and he's like, hey, I got puppies, and I just go peek in the van and now I'm snatched up.
yeah,
So it was one of those situations. I knew about it. Everybody knew about it because he was a serial kidnapper, and a serial rapist. Two of them, after I looked him up last month, two of them was his grandkids.
oh,
Yeah, two of them was his grandkids. So he has a serious problem. And I still, as a child, it doesn't. You can drill into your child so much,
mhm.
and all it takes is something to throw their distraction off. Like puppies, you know what I mean, or candy, or
You're
so.
laughing right now, but
But
like,
it's like that. I mean, it's the truth.
yeah,
And that's pretty much how it happened. And just like my mom blamed herself, I went through the same thing. Like, well, I knew, and
I knew better. Like you taught me,
I didn't talk to strangers. I'm still mean to this day. I was a mean kid. Like, if I didn't know you, I'd look at you like, you know. And even now, like, I'm very shy. That's why I was like, I'm nervous getting on here. Like, I could talk on the internet all day.
she's a
Man,
Facebook
I can run my mouth on the internet all day, but when it comes to like being in crowds and stuff, you
Mhm.
don't approach me, I'm not going to, go up to a person and say anything to them. And I think that stems from what happened. Um, it adds on to me being mean, I guess.
So how does those things affect you now that you're an adult? Like what role does it play into your everyday life?
I mean, um,
I know what that means, but explain it to them.
I I do not trust men, and the best comparison that I can give is there are bad cops and there are good cops. But when we see something happen with a white cop, versus a black person, immediately all cops are bad.
Yeah.
and we know all cops aren't bad, but it's like
But
and that's how I am with men. I know all men aren't bad. I mean, I have a father. I got 3 brothers, one of them good. But like it's I I know all men aren't bad, but in my mind, it's always, oh, this dude is gonna do something, or you can't trust him, or you know what I mean? Like I don't trust men at all. At all. I have male friends, um, but it's very few, and it takes a lot for me to call a man my friend. Like if I call a guy my friend, it's because they've been there for a while, and I know for a fact like they're not gonna let anything happen to me. Um, I've actually had while I was in the Navy, a guy tried to rape me, and one of my close male friends, he did what I
needed
would
to
hope, yeah, anyone would do. But that also, even though it's not childhood trauma, that connected back, to my childhood trauma. But yeah, I would definitely say it plays a part in me being gay. I know for a fact it plays a part in me being a stud, because this has changed so much, because a lot of these studs just won't say that they're bisexual. But before, me dressing like this kept men away. Now they just don't they don't care. So, I still get hit on and stuff. So it in the beginning it played a big role in me saying, okay, you know what? I'm gonna dress like a guy. You know what I'm saying? If I dress like a guy, they won't look at me, they won't talk to me. But now they don't care. They do, they do not
you,
care at all.
you mentioned that you had an incident in the Navy here as well. Um, I also had an incident in the Navy that I try to tell people about it just to spread awareness so they can be on the lookout. It's easy to get caught up into the fantasy of, oh, we're in the Navy, these are my brothers and sisters, and for the most part, that's how
Mhm,
we all look at each other. But in reality, the military is just as cruel as the real world. And um,
mhm,
when I was in E2 in the Navy, I was brand new. This was back in 2015. Um, I checked into my command. I went straight on deployment. We went to Bahrain. So, we're out in the desert. This is 6.5, 7 month deployment. And um, one of the guys that I worked with, he was my supervisor. Um, he preyed on me, like, because I was junior to him and he had already been in the military for a while. He would take me
mhm.
out to the flight line at night. And I'm saying, in Bahrain, it's pitch black on the flight line. And, you know,
Yeah.
he would take me out there and like try to rub on my thigh, or tell me if I do this he'll treat me better than everybody else in the shop, or he'll let me off work, or he won't make me do as much work. And it got to a point where like he would text me, harass me, or a chief actually caught him trying to get into my room. And the chief was my mentor, so um, he really I had explained that to people that he was harassing me. Nobody took me serious. My
Right.
LPO dismissed me, and he was just like, "Oh, that's just how he is." And I had kind of reported it, and nobody kind of really did anything until the chief caught him trying to get into my room. Like he was literally pulling on the door, and I was telling him, "Please, just go away, just go away." You know what I mean? And that traumatized me because I'm sitting here in my room, like like, please, I'm 18, 18 years old. I'm
Right.
like, please, like go away, just leave me alone. And it's getting dark outside at the time. And I'm like, okay, like nobody's gonna walk by and see him. And luckily, the chief saw
Mhm.
him and they did. He caught him, kind of jacked him up, threw him against like the wall, and was like, what are you doing? Blah blah blah. And it got to a point where obviously I had to start telling like higher people. And the guy that was Yeah, see. One of the guys were like, "Are you sure you want to report this? You don't want to end his career."
Right. Right. Okay. What about me?
And
Like,
in the
yeah.
moment, I realized that nobody actually looks out for you the way you look out for yourself, and that's all you have to go off.
Mhm.
But that moment um, took me back, took me back to my childhood and some of the stuff I experienced as a child. And when I was a child, I went to church with this girl that was my neighbor, and my mom knew her grandma and her mom, and like these were godly people. You know, these was fellow
Mm-hmm.
Christians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we would go to church every Sunday and go to Bible study, and the normal nights of church. And
Mhm.
we had a shut in, and for people who go to church or went to church know what a shut in is.
Yeah.
You stay all night and you pray and you have food and you kind of watch movies, whatever. Bring in, you go to sleep, wake up, and then you kind of go home. Um, well, that night, the I was maybe like 10 or 11, and the girl that I was friends with was like 13 or 14, and um, that night I remember me sleeping on the side of her, and one of my other friends was on the opposite side, and I remember waking up and seeing her like kind of like over me, but not directly, and her hands were in my pants. And I kind of looked at her, and she just kind of told me to just be quiet, like it's okay. And when I realized what was going on, I was scared, but I kind of laid there, and in my head, I was thinking, well, her people are all throughout the church. They own the church. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I came here with them. Who can I tell? Who would help me? Who would believe me? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I kind of kept that to myself. And it's been years. And I can't tell you how many people actually know that about me. I actually tried to address the female once I got older, like maybe 2, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and she just kind of dismissed me and said I was insane for making up stuff. But I can't make up something I remember so vividly and that I felt and that I heard, and the emotions I felt, like being
Mhm.
scared, being confused, going home and kind of just like sitting there. I blame myself. I
Right.
blame them. I blame my mom. And it was just something I cried about, like to myself. I would think about, and it would make me very emotional at times. And
Mhm.
so when I hear other people's stories, especially at 8, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because
It
I was only 10, you know what I mean? And
right.
it traumatized me. So,
I think I was in therapy up until 17. I stopped at 16 and then I went back. I got raped again, ended up getting pregnant, lost my kid after one of the rapist's family found me after track practice and jumped me. And so I went back to therapy. Um, but I only stayed in therapy for like a year and a half, maybe. So maybe 18. It could have been 18. But yeah, like just from that first incident alone, um, that was years because I had no trust in anyone. Even my father, it was hard to be around him because the guy that kidnapped me had a goatee like him. And my father was in prison at the time that it happened. He was released, a little bit later, but he was in prison at the time it happened. And when he came home, I was just like, whoa. And I was a daddy's girl. Like to this day, I have every letter that my father has written me from prison. Like I am still a daddy's girl. My daddy opened the door for me now. He sent me flowers. Also, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm still a daddy's girl. But that alone kind of, it shifted everything. I slept with my mama until I was 12. Like, it really it really messes with you. And with traumas like that, it's three ways to go. You could take the positive route, you could take the negative route, or you can take both of them and kind of, you know what I'm saying, kind of mesh them together. And with me, I think I took both.
Mhm.
Um, like I tried to use it as a strength, you know what I mean? Like, you know what, I'm strong. I got through this. I got through this. But at the same time, it was so much negativity knocking at my door. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm like, well, I don't trust dudes. I know I like women. I'm just gonna be a stud. I don't, like I would walk around and fight dudes just, just on a whim. Like you said, what? All right, and it was instant, like just anger. So I think I took both aspects of it. Um, it's really hard to heal from stuff like that, especially when you're a child, like you're saying, you remember stuff and then you want to bring it up to people, but you're like, who's going to believe me? Or who can I go to that's not going to blame me? Or, you know what I mean? Like it's hard because that's the first thing they do, especially unfortunately in Black families. First thing they say, well, what did you do? Or you know what I mean? Like, so it's difficult.
For
Um,
me, I um I think my coping mechanism, or like the way I process or deal with things, I kind of just like I try to block out certain memories, or I try to
mhm,
pretend like it didn't happen. Or anybody who know me know I make a lot of jokes, and that's one of the ways I deal with my hurt.
yeah.
To this day, I will laugh and joke um,
Yep.
about anything, even myself. Like, not a childhood trauma, but in 2018, I was diagnosed with lupus, and I spent 2 months, in the hospital, um, trying to heal. Like, I wasn't breathing well. The Navy had brought my family in basically because they thought I was gonna, you
Mm,
know, die or whatever. Um, and when I learned how to like speak and walk and stuff again, I began to make jokes because I didn't want anybody to look at me different,
mhm.
and I didn't want to make anybody feel bad for being around me. So to deal with that, I would joke. I would joke about my own illness, or some of the things I've been through, and I realized that's just all the shit I experienced coming back to me, and I'm just like, damn. Well, if I would have pulled
Cut
the
it out.
plug
Mhm.
when I was hurt back then, I wouldn't be hurting again. And I
Yeah.
don't think people realize that those smiling friends are the ones who's
We're
going
the
through
ones
it.
that are dealing. Yeah. Mhm.
But it's kind of, I'm the backbone of my family, so I feel like I'm always like, okay, guys, what are we doing today? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But inside, that's not really how I feel. I feel like a little girl that's just crying all the time, and I can't make it stop, or I can't turn it off.
I understand. I woke up 2 days ago. The day I posted that on Instagram, I woke up at 3 in the morning and was just crying. Like,
Y'all,
and
she
it
posted something on Facebook one day, and she had texted me. She loved me, and she was glad I was in her life. And she texted me the message. I saw the message, and then I got on Facebook like 20 minutes later, and I saw her status, and I immediately went to calling her because I was worried, and I know when I started thinking like that, what it means for me, and how it could just be a red flag. So immediately, I'm blowing her phone up,
and
and
I,
she
I
hadn't
had
posted
to
nothing after
apologize.
that.
I was asleep. I drank myself to sleep. Like it's just
Y'all, when I tell y'all, I cried about this girl all night. I
I'm
cried
sorry.
because I knew she was having a hard time, and I know sometimes her pride get in the way, and she won't say anything.
Sometimes I won't
So
say
I
anything probably 95% of the time. And that
well,
stems
that's the
back
difference. You
to
don't have to say anything to me because I'm a no. But I was hurt because, in that moment, I felt like even though I didn't know for sure what had happened, I feel like I immediately had lost a friend, and my heart could not take that because when she texted me that she loved me and she glad I was in her life, she didn't know I needed that. In that moment, I was having the worst week of my life. Felt like, child, I was going through it. And she texted me that, and I was like, oh, I needed that. And she, she reacted to the message, and then she didn't say anything back. And I'm like, that's not like her, whatever. But maybe she just went to sleep, get on Facebook, boom, red flag, red flag. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how
I've been
that went.
going through it a little bit. I have. I've been going through it a little bit, but you know, it's life. It's life. That's just it happens. you know.
uh, it is, but it's not okay. Do you think that the only way to heal trauma is to go through therapy or anything like that? Because me, I didn't go through therapy for what I experienced. I did go through therapy as I got older for something different,
hmm
but not from what I experienced as a child and what I experienced in the Navy. And I probably should still look into that. But
Don't bite me, bro.
what do you think about?
um, absolutely. I feel like therapy is 100% needed in order to deal with any kind of traumatic experience. But when I say therapy, I'm not just speaking um, about going and sitting and talking with a therapist or a shrink or whatever you want to call them. Um, Therapy can be something as small as writing in a journal every day, um, playing an instrument, chilling with your family, anything. If it helps you feel better, if it helps you cope, then it's a form of therapy. A
Mhm.
lot of people, it's getting better from what I've seen, but a lot of people used to look down on
Therapy. No, I'm joking. I am
she
joking,
joking.
but
Look, she joking. Nah. But yeah, like a lot of people used to look down on therapy, and I noticed a lot of black people, a lot of
yeah,
our people are now getting into going to see therapists.
and I
Um,
love that for
yeah, I love that, and they're going to black therapists.
what
that,
I think what it was is that black parents. I can't speak for everybody's parents, but I know for my parents, like for my
hmm
close friends' parents, it was always therapy is not for black people.
hmm
You're not going through nothing.
You're
You
weak.
just and
hmm
my dad,
Yeah.
my dad was on drugs.
hmm
That's a childhood trauma I experienced. He was on drugs, and for most of my youth, actually, he didn't get sober until I was already an adult. And I remember the nurse calling me, and she was like, "Your dad wants to get clean, and he puts you over everything, so you're his point of contact and whatever." But I remember when my dad would have his good days, where he was functional, he would be at the house, and I have 7 brothers, and they would hit me, and I would cry. He would get on to them. He would always tell me, "Don't
Yeah.
cry. It's a sign of weakness. People will see you as weak."
That's what's wrong with the world. But that's how they were raised. And it
Yes.
comes back. I keep telling people I could be 100% wrong, but I feel like it goes back into slavery because when they saw you were weak, that's when they really got into you. You know what I mean? So back then they were like, you can't show that you're weak. We have to be strong. And I think it moved on, within the years, but it just developed into something that became a crutch for us.
Mhm.
But
I agree that I don't it is a crutch now. It was a strength back then. And I understand,
hmm
like, oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. I get it. I get it. But as a little girl, when I was going through something, all I wanted to do was crawl on my dad and cry,
Right. Right.
or crawl on my mom lap and cry. But I feel like that part was robbed from me, and because my dad was on drugs, he was never at the house, and then forced my mom to work 2 jobs, and so I was kind of at home floating, and I didn't really get to see. My mom showed us love, right? But I didn't know how to love in return. So
Right.
it was something I had to teach myself growing up, because she had that strong, independent mindset. And I love that for her, because now I'm a strong, independent woman. Um, but it was also a curse, because I didn't know how to let someone
How to
properly
let
love.
love in.
And people don't think about that as a trauma.
Yeah, it is. That's crazy. Like, we have so much in common. My father has been on drugs since 17. The only difference is I didn't know until I was like 21, 22,
Hmm.
because he went just flat out. My daddy did a lot of stuff. That is one Jamaican that made money doing whatever he was going to do. So he was in and out of prison. But I was always there every weekend to see him. We kept, like, I never not knew my father. When he came home, it was like he never left. And he supported us. He's the romantic one, the emotional one. He rubs your feet. He's that guy that women want. And I found heroin in the bathroom, like a small little dab. And that's how I found out my father was on drugs. And my mom finally told me, because other than that, you wouldn't know, because since he had been back and forth to prison so much, he was always going through, some form of detox until he became clean, because he'd been in prison for years. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go back for 6 months or then. No, my dad would go back for 3 to 5. Like, yeah, like my dad was in prison. And now he's a complete addict. I want to say, I think we completely lost my father to drugs about 6 months ago.
I'm sorry
And
for that.
girl, it's a whole nother battle. Like seeing the one you looked up to, complete
The
he's
man that taught you how to love women.
exactly, because the way I treat the woman that I'm with, I get it from my father. She will never open the door. She will never pump gas. Even if she working from home, when I come home, I'm gonna massage her feet. I love to cook because I was a chef for years. So I'll come home and cook. I don't care. Like, I'm I'm very nurturing, and I get that from him, because my mama, Lord knows that Gemini ain't doing it. She not. She she not. It's not coming from her. She's sweet and she's loving, but like to that depth, it's not. It's not her. Not that romantic side. And let's just go have a picnic. No, mm-mm, not, not my mama. So I get it. I get it all from my dad. So to see him become completely crippled, like physically and mentally, like, not my father can't even stand up straight. When he goes to sleep, he sleeps bent over like this on the bed and standing up, but like his upper torso, he's on the bed. Like, it's bad. But all we can do is support them to a certain extent, because once you give in to drugs, like, you're not the same person at all.
I told so my mom's mom, I wasn't really close to her.
Mhm.
Loved her. I remember going to visit her and stuff like that. I remember the times we shared with Granny, um, but we wasn't as close as me and my dad's mom.
Mhm.
Me and grandma. So my mom was Granny and my dad mom was grandma. And when my dad was out there, binging, my
Mhm.
grandma took him. place, right? So I remember her. I was always her favorite grandchild. I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody say. I was her favorite grandchild.
Always. Always.
She always gave me money. You know, my grandma was a breast cancer survivor, and she was
Mm.
born in 1918.
Damn.
Yeah, so she would tell stories about how how she would pick cotton and stuff like that, or how she would like get a nickel to go walk to the store to buy a peach. Um,
Yeah.
but my grandma
That's
was
deep.
my favorite person in the world. She was um like everything to me. Like she
Mm.
meant more to me than my parents meant to me.
Right.
Um,
Gr-
and I remember my dad talking to my dad one day, and he was, I just want to be clean for mom because, that woman prayed for me all the time.
Yeah.
She's been through hell and back for me. And I said, you know, if you can't do this for us, I don't want anything to do with you in the future. I don't want you to have any part of my kids' life when I have them. I don't want you part of my life. And I'm my dad's only girl.
Yeah.
So to him, it cut deep. I'm his only girl, he's his youngest
Mm-hmm.
child.
Mm.
So for him, that was like, I was like, you're gonna let your mom go home. You're gonna let grandma go home knowing that you didn't do what you needed to do to get clean.
Right.
My dad worked his ass off. He got clean, still clean to this day, and I thank
That's
God for
good.
everything.
That's good.
But my grandma passed, and I remember looking at my dad. Like I came home, I took leave. Someone told me to take leave. I took leave. I went. My grandma got sick. She went to the hospital. Um, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see her one more time before I leave. And I went to see her, and I left the same night. I'm driving back to Florida from Texas, and I get a call. I'm in Louisiana at this point, and they like grandma didn't make it. And I remember,
She probably
talking
held
to.
on for you.
I remember talking to my dad, and I was like, "You did it. You did what she needed you to do."
Yeah.
And to me, that like it healed some past hurt that I was feeling, like because I just wanted him to be clean, and I feel like she left knowing that he did what he was supposed to do, and
Right.
so it allowed her to finally go home. She was
In
99
peace.
years old.
Yeah. In peace. She
Yeah,
completed what she thought was her mission. Yeah.
yeah, she was 99,
She
and I'm
lived a
like,
long
God,
life. Yeah.
God didn't take her for a reason because He wanted to show her that you can do what she was praying for all those years. And so she was healed and she got called home. And my the little girl in me was healed. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that part at least. The part of
But it
him
still hurt.
missing birthdays. Not showing up to parent teachers day or um, like dads and donuts, father and
Mm.
daughter dance. I was like, he have a chance to see me get married now. He have a chance to be in his grandkids' life. Um, but yeah, people is I think because we don't know what trauma is in the black community. Well, we didn't know
Right.
at a point. And I think when all those things are brought to life, like you're forced to deal with them all at once, and it can be overwhelming. And for me, that was overwhelming. Like my grandma had survived breast cancer. I'm like, and now she gone, and now I'm stuck with my dad, who I don't really know.
But you
Because
can get to know.
yeah, and I did. I even had the
Hmm.
hard conversation. Like, I want to know what drug you did, what had you hooked, and because I knew that part about him, everything that I had been through, I had got prescribed so much medicine. I was scared to take medicine because he told me he got addicted from being.
Prescriptions. Those are I'm in the medical field, and I will I it takes a lot, even with me with my shoulder, it takes so much for me to take a muscle relaxer. Um,
So they are addicted. I was on them and I would try to take them for everything. Oh, something that I didn't even get them prescribed for would hurt. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go just take this, not knowing that's abuse. Like, I'm abusing what
yeah,
my medication
and
is
you
for.
get stuck on them quick. There's actually a show on Hulu called Dope Sick, and it speaks specifically about Oxycontin and how it came about. But they did a show about it, because of course they would probably all be off if they just, came out and spoke on it. But they did a show about it and how it came about and how everything just went and left. And they didn't know people were going to get addicted because somebody lied in the report. It was just a whole bunch of stuff. But those prescription drugs are the worst. See, I feel more for your father than I do for mine. It took me a while to feel any kind of empathy, sympathy, compassion, because I'm like, you had us. I'm the one you tried to have. Like, you know what I mean? Like, me and my baby brother are the ones you guys worked for every night whenever y'all was doing it, whatever. Like, y'all, y'all wanted us. And you still was, addicted to this drug.
Mhm.
But I talked to my cousin. She was in my life from jump because my mother, she worked as a nurse at night. So, I was always with my cousin because my brothers was out doing whatever. Um, and she told me, she's like, your father grew up in a time where um drugs was the thing. His father was dead. His mother was dead. He was raised by his aunt, I believe, and she passed away from breast cancer. So he went, to the streets and he started doing drugs at 17. Back then, that was a thing: drugs, fly suits, hats, and Cadillacs. So, I mean, so, it was like, it kind of opened up my mind to it, but I was still selfish. Um, I was like, I don't care because I'm in the medical field. I see what it do to people, and I see how it breaks families up, and this, and that. He should have stopped. When he had me, he should have stopped. Now he got my brother. He should have stopped. But then I had to think about it. You cannot break an addiction for someone else. That's how I coped with it. Because my thing is, say me and you got the closest relationship ever. I'm addicted to crack. I break it for you, something happened to you, or you decide to not be my friend no more. Now I'm like, well, you know what? And then I'm gone because, you were my main reason for stopping.
For doing.
It worked for some people, like it worked for your father. It works for some people, but for me, I had to sit back and think maybe that's not gonna work for him. He needs to want it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with all that my dad was going through, he didn't have a lot to really, aside from us, he felt like he didn't have a lot to live for. So he didn't care. Now he's just at the point where we're like, well, I mean, we could call and check on him. I don't even know where my dad lived. He just left my mom's house like a month ago. I don't even know where he at. I call him and check on him, but I mean, that's the most I can do because once those drugs really take you, like you gone. You know what I mean? So now we just do what we can and pray and hope for the best, and you gotta kind of just let it go. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you because that's a blessing. Your story is beautiful. That's a blessing for real. A lot of people want that. You know what I mean? Uh,
And
A lot of
I
people. love that.
I'm happy to say that my dad and I bond is like this now.
Stronger.
I
Exactly. Stronger.
I love my dad to death, and I tell him
Mhm.
so much that I'm so proud of him. And I know for him it's hard to believe because to this day he still feel like he failed as a
Th
parent.
they always do, yeah.
And all I can do is reassure him that I wouldn't change anything about our story because it's unique
Right.
to us. And it taught me to be strong when I felt weak and to stand up
Mhm.
for myself and to be the woman that he's able to look at and say, that's that's my daughter.
She was messing with something. There's a plant down there. She was messing with it. I'm listening.
But yeah, so I appreciate him for everything. Um,
I say
but a
cheers
part
to
of
that, for real. 'Cause that's not easy. That's not easy at all.
it's not, and
Like,
I flew him 100 times.
yeah, that is not easy. That even breaking from alcohol.
Girl, whoop.
Breaking from alcohol sometimes I feel like is worse than drugs. Like when you go through delirium tremens, like your whole body shuts down.
So I got a question for you because since we talking about breaking from alcohol,
I
um,
don't want to talk about this.
uh-uh. Currently, I am still in the Navy. Y'all, it's ghetto out here. She was
Da-da-da-da-da.
she was prior Navy, so she still knows what it's like. But in the Navy, we tend to turn to alcohol because it's one thing we are allowed to do.
Drink
Um,
to the foam.
so how do you? For me, I had a point in my life where I did turn to alcohol, and I didn't realize that I was needing it every day. Like people like, oh, it's just wine, but I was going through like a bottle and a half a day.
Yeah, you can get addicted to it. Wine is still alcohol. It's just a lower content. Yeah.
And people was like, "Oh, it's just wine," but I'm like, "Bitch, I'm drinking a bottle a day," and it had a click in my head. But with that being said, how do you cope with your trauma? Like, what are some of your things that you do? Like for me, the podcast is what I do now. It helps me talk about stuff that I do want to talk about, and some things I don't want to talk about. But it forces me out of my comfort zone to be able to have those conversations. So
So
be honest.
before before I came here, I've been in Dallas for it'll be 2 years, October 12th. Um, before
We're
I came
October
here,
babies, guys. We're October babies. It's our season.
um, let's see, before I came here, my coping mechanisms was motorcycles and stunts. I was a very dangerous person. That's where the firefighter thing came
We
from. My
got
mother
people that
hated
say,
it.
come in.
Yeah, she's like, why out of all things? She's like, you know so much about medical. You want to be a medic firefighter? And I'm like, mm-hmm. So it was always a dangerous stuff. I used to go to strips and do stunts on motorcycles. It was, it was protected. We had ambulance and stuff there. It wasn't like we were like in the middle of the street wheeling and stuff like that. But motorcycles. Uh,
For
I
you
played
guys
the
who don't know,
piano,
mo-
drums.
motorcycle is a form of release, the speed, the
It really
adrenaline you
is.
feel. My
It-
motorcycle, I got after I got out of the hospital in
you a
2016.
Saki girl, huh?
A what?
You a Saki girl, huh?
A what?
A Saki girl. You got a Kawasaki, don't you?
A what?
A, S- a Saki girl. That's what we call. That's what we call
Say
them
that
in LA.
with your chest when you said,
Say it with my chest.
what you riding?
It's all CBRs over here. I'm not gonna lie, I want to Aprilla though, but it's all CBRs over here. But you know what I'm saying? I like y'all. Y'all got a nice
I
little gas
respect
tank. It's not too big. You could dip in it. I like y'all gas tank setup. That's pretty
Yeah,
nice.
they good. It works perfect for me.
You know what I'm
I'm
saying? You got to hop up
small.
on that thing. You know what I'm saying?
I did have to remind Lord about 2 inches, but we ain't gonna talk about that. That bitch got slammed down to the ground
I'm
for
pretty
me.
sure it did.
Anyways, continue.
But yeah, so I started playing the clarinet in the 3rd grade. So I picked up on instruments, played the clarinet, trumpet, snare drums, piano. I tried to learn how to play the guitar. I was getting there, but I tried to learn how to play the acoustic. And once I realized I was getting calluses on my fingers, I was like, I'm a lesbian. Nobody wanted. Mm-mm.
A money
I
maker.
let, I let that go. Gave the guitar to my brother. My baby brother is beast, electric, bass, all of that. He kill it. Now, I started learning how to play the alto sax. It's in my closet over there, but I just with school, I don't have time to do anything that I used as a coping mechanism. So has become since I've been in Dallas, I drink.
And guys,
And
I just want to say this: we are working on that with her. We are working on different outlets because we do not want her drinking as a coping.
I'm getting a belly. You remember my 6 pack?
Yeah, see you gonna be fat. You want me
I'm
to
already fat. I just like to lay on my stomach. Like I'm, yeah, my 6 pack is gone.
see none of the hotties gonna want you. They're not gonna want you.
That's a lie because they like dad bods. I don't know what it is, but they like these chubby stomach people. I don't know why, but they do. So,
All right, so kind of drinking is your outlet right now.
mhm,
What would you like to do to be able to cope? Like, what do you feel like your
play music.
anything
That's
music
my
related?
that's my thing. But one, I stay next to some ghetto people. I don't know who let these ghetto people move in here. I didn't have ghetto. I didn't have ghetto neighbors at first. They just came in maybe about 6 months ago at the most. But
Jesus.
I don't want to be sitting in here playing because, like I told you, I'm learning to play the saxophone. This is the hardest instrument I've ever had to learn to play.
The sax.
Um,
You know,
yes,
Sax Bay, the girl.
I'm trying to get on her level because I can read
Man,
music like crazy.
I told my my girlfriend that was my crush, and she was like,
Listen, and I got an expensive sax. Like it's all gold trimmed in silver. Like my little brother was like, "Hey, you want to give me your sax so I can learn?" No. I just need somewhere where I can play it because I really you can't muffle a sax. You know, if I want to get on the keyboard, I can put headphones on. You know, the guitar you can kind of you don't have to use an amp. You know what I mean? Like, but wind instruments, specifically that sax, is loud as hell, and I don't want to fuck the amp over there.
"What's funny is I played the clarinet, and and then I switched to string instruments. So I started playing the
Mhm.
violin and the viola.
Oh, you
Um,
play the violin? You be
mhm.
hitting it?
I don't play anymore. That's something I
You
would love
should.
to actually. I have
You should
one.
get back into it.
I loved it. It was like I played from like when I want to say 9, 10,
Mhm.
up until I was like 16,
You should
17,
get
and
back
then I
into
started
it.
playing again 2016 to 2017, and I just never picked it back up.
I say do it, and you should blog about it.
Why do you think that it's so hard to ask for help?
Judgment. People don't want to be judged. Pride. People don't want to be blamed as well. Um, a lot of situations happen, and like I said before, you know, the first thing that some people say is, "Well, what do you do? What did you do?" Well, oh, you shouldn't have had that on, or you know, you shouldn't have provoked, or you should. It's always coming back to the victim, you know, being the reason why whatever happened. Um,
Or even like, let's just say it wasn't the same reason that we discussed, that we
mhm.
experienced our trauma from. let's just say they got beat as a child, they're scared to say something because they're gonna get beat again. Like,
It's
God,
trauma. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a trigger.
So I think people are scared to talk about trauma because they're scared to actually face it and to
Mhm.
deal with the emotions that come along with um, facing their trauma. The
They don't have a
tears,
support system.
being sad, feeling
Mhm.
depressed. Because once that depression kick in, what she said knocking at your
Oh,
door,
God. That thing be knocking at your door like a Chipotle, you know, in their mind. That thing be knocking, like,
and
for real. When
at this
depression
point,
hit, it
me,
hit.
I don't know why depression even knock because
Right, here, you got the
it knocked,
key.
it let itself in. What are
Yeah,
you knocking for?
you got the key, boo. It's all good. Don't worry. We
Most definitely. Most
you know?
definitely.
That's crazy. Mm-mm.
Uh, what are your trauma responses? Like earlier, I mentioned that my trauma response is I just kind of pretend like shit didn't happen. So I pretend that, oh, what? Huh? That never, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I block shit out to the
Mhm.
fullest. Like, I try to ignore shit. Um, Even when the triggers start to happen, I'm like, shut it down, shut it down.
Yeah.
This didn't happen. You cannot relate. This has nothing to do with that. And I'm like, constantly making myself sick because I'm trying not to think about it.
Yeah.
So, what do you
Mm.
do?
I think I got a couple of trauma responses. One of them is to shut down, but after I express myself and it seems like you just don't care, or you're trying to make it seem like whatever I'm feeling isn't valid,
Mhm.
then I shut down. Um, the other is aggression. Um, when we're out, you know what I'm saying? Like my last relationship, this was an issue. You know, Toya, she was beautiful. Like everybody.
Her. I did. I
She
know.
came back. Did I tell you she came back?
Did we?
Anywho, um, we're talking. We're good. We're building a friendship again. It's cool. But
Hey, girl, because she's gonna watch
look,
this.
like I said to Toya, one of the it seemed like was the final straw. Um, was a night where we went out to the club. There was a girl, mind you, this girl was drunk and was by herself. And no, when I say drunk, like couldn't even stand up. And you know, she leaned on my chair, so I just scooted closer to Toya. I'm just like, well, sure, you can't even stand up. I'm just, I didn't, you know, I didn't think nothing of it. And her best friend asked me not to say nothing because she was calling security for her. So I left it at that. Um, Toya felt some kind of way because she was like, if this was someone else, you would have did something. You know, I'm just like, well, but I mean, in the situation,
We gotta look out for each other. She's a
yeah.
female.
And then the security guard came, and her breast fell out, and he looking at me like, yo, I don't want to, you know. So I just grabbed her spaghetti strap and jiggled it a little bit so her breast could fall back in. That was a problem. But when that was a big problem, I should not have done that. I should have let her titty hang out. Excuse me. But you know, we go downstairs. We all go into the bathroom before leaving. A guy tries to grab Toya's best friend. She cut it off. All right. He went to grab Toya. I hold on, bruh. The dude was fine. You know, he was like, "Oh, wait, my bad. I'm sorry." He was fine. It was his homeboy. Oh, hey, that's a stud. I turned around and said, "What's good, bro?" Like, you instantly. I'm not from Dallas.
What it
Like, you
is.
know, and instantly, like, I just snapped back into, you know, I'm
The
like,
triggers. That was the
I'm like,
trigger.
what's up? Like, you know what I'm saying? And she was like, do you know, like, neither one of us are from here. Um, she's like, these people out here, they just be killing people now, and you know, just the smallest thing. Like, I get what she was saying. She was worried. because a person will shoot you in a like, you know what I'm
But
saying?
in
They'll
your
shoot you.
mind, you're thinking
In my mind, I'm thinking
it was
protect her
it
and
was a
respect.
man that hurt me. It will be a man that hurt you. So
Right,
I'm gonna defend both of us.
right. And that's what I was thinking. But in her mind, she like, hold on, you not thinking of the bigger picture. We can all get hurt, and it happens a lot. Like if I feel a guy is disrespectful,
So that is your
oh,
trauma response.
that's my trauma response. Like I took up boxing, Muay Thai, I'm sharpshooter qualified. Like I learned how to protect myself. Like I would shoot your Achilles tendon from right up under you, and you wouldn't even know what was going you wouldn't know what's going on. Like
Now you gonna get the blicky. Child, I am wine drunk. Okay. I did you see this? Can you see how much is in there?
first of all, she's drinking more than me, guys. All I have was this, and it's just honey drunk.
It's
Oh.
this wine. This is not a paid advertisement. But this wine right here, it's the
Be quiet for 5 minutes.
it's the perfect combination of sweet and dry.
Yeah, see, I need it to be the perfect combo because sometimes it'd be too dry, it'd be too bitter.
Too dry, it make you
You be
dehydrated.
like,
So
damn,
yeah.
I need to chase this with some liquor. Hold on. Look.
So this I can drink. And girl,
Which one is it?
It's Saint Sebastian.
I know it's good because Sebastian. That's a nice name, Sebastian.
It's red. It's 11% alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good little. It's a good little.
Brand.
Child, I can't read nothing on that bottle right now. But
oh, have mercy on my soul. I says I'm not trying to hear you.
But since we're wrapping it up, I just want to throw out there. I've told her before, and I'm gonna tell her again. I will give her flowers. Give her flowers publicly because she deserves them. All the times we talk, all the time she yelled in there, she didn't want to. All the time she decided to be a good friend to me. All the advice and everything she's been through, she keeps fighting, and for that, I will give her flowers now. I love you. I will always love you, and I will always be a good friend to you as long as you continue to give me the same energy, the same support.
Always.
Yeah, y'all give y'all friends. Yeah, give y'all friends they flowers
before they gone. Look,
yeah,
I've been drinking.
Before it's too late. Like you don't want to see one of your friends leave and you didn't get the opportunity to tell them how much you love them and how much they mean to you in your life. And so with that being said, that's why I took this time out to do it. And she know how much she means to me. I don't have to explain it. I will literally tussle with
somebody. Making me blush in front of all these folks.
I want to tussle with the people about this one, okay? Y'all
stop making me blush in front of all these folks. You know, but, I gotta keep my
trauma response. You gotta stop it. It's okay. But I really do appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story, because it can very much so help somebody else. And if there's any last words you'd like to say, go ahead and say them.
I love you. No, but I want to thank you for giving us this platform. We need to give you your flowers, for being a good, just for being a good person, being a great friend, and opening us up. A lot of people are, scared to express themselves, and you are giving us an out, so.
That made me cry.
No, come on, you've been crying all day. Come on, yo, you got it. No, but for real though, yeah, so I just want to thank you. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to thank you. And you're probably going to get a lot of thank yous. So let me be one of them. I thank you and I love you and I appreciate you.
You.
Mm.
Well, guys, that is all on today's episode of Journaling Out Loud.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we did. Until next time.